a digital haze, looking for love in modern days. 21st Century Dating Decoded, the official Speed Mingle podcast. Yeah, 21st Century Dating Decoded, the official Speed Mingle podcast.
Welcome back to 21st Century Dating Decoded, the official Speed Mingle podcast. I'm your host, Don, and if you've spent any time lately staring at a dating app interface wondering if you're looking at a romantic prospect or a digital catalog, today's episode is specifically for you. We've spent the last decade optimized for the swipe economy, a world of algorithmic matching, curated bios, and the relentless efficiency of the you-up text. But there is a seismic shift happening under our feet. Today we are diving deep into a phenomenon that is redefining the landscape of modern intimacy. We're talking about wildflowering. What is the wildflowering paradigm? For those of you not up on the latest sociolinguistic trends of Gen Z, wildflowering isn't just a catchy TikTok buzzword. It represents a fundamental transition away from the hothoused, forced environments of digital dating toward organic relational development. Think of it this way. The old way. You plant a seed in a controlled pot, an app, monitor it daily, and try to force a bloom through sheer willpower and scheduled vibe checks. The wildflowering way. You focus on the soil, your community, your hobbies, your personal growth, and let the relationship grow where it naturally takes root, without the artificial light of a 20-question profile. On today's agenda in this episode, we're going to analyze the why behind this organic pivot. We'll be breaking down the digitization fatigue factor, why Gen Z is leading the charge in deleting apps in favor of run clubs, pottery classes, and third space gathering spots. The death of the talking stage, how shifting from high-pressure one-on-one dates to low-stakes group hangouts is actually creating stronger emotional foundations. The chemistry of the mundane, why the wildflowering paradigm prioritizes seeing a partner in their natural habitat rather than their best-lit digital version. The app promised us infinite choice, but wildflowering promises us genuine discovery. It's the difference between shopping for a partner and accidentally finding one while you're busy living your life. Whether you're a millennial trying to unlearn the swipe left reflex, or a General Zer looking for a name to put to your dating burnout, grab a coffee and settle in. We're moving past the screen and back into the wild. Let's decode the wildflowering paradigm. While the romantic landscape of 2025 was largely characterized by the pragmatic rigidity of hardballing, the practice of articulating non-negotiable expectations from the outset, and the ambiguous stasis of situationships, the spring of 2026 has witnessed a sophisticated pivot toward a more fluid, naturalist methodology. The era of high-stakes interpersonal interrogation is being superseded by a breakout philosophy known as wildflowering, taking its nomenclature from uncultivated flora that thrives only when environmental conditions reach a natural equilibrium. Wildflowering represents a conscious departure from the corporate industrial model of romance. In this prior model, initial encounters functioned as preliminary interviews, and relational milestones were tracked with the clinical precision of quarterly key performance indicators, KPIs. Conceptualizing wildflowering, the architecture of radical patience. At its fundamental level, wildflowering is an exercise in radical patience. It functions as a relational contract, often established through mutual, unspoken intuition, to dismantle the rigid chronological scaffolds that have constrained modern courtship for over a decade. The defining characteristic of a wildflowering practitioner is the deliberate abandonment of the teleological inquiry. Where is this trajectory leading? By the third encounter. In its place, the focus recalibrates toward a more immediate, phenomenological question. Is the present moment intrinsically rewarding? The theoretical pillars of the movement. To understand the mechanics of this shift, one must examine the core tenets that sustain a wildflowering dynamic. Depressurization of timelines, the systematic removal of arbitrary define the relationship, DTR deadlines, allowing for a more authentic unfolding of mutual interest. Low-stakes engagement, a preference for environments that facilitate genuine psychological safety and comfort, rather than high-cost, high-performance social displays. Organic taxonomy, the belief that the inherent quality of the connection should eventually dictate its label, rather than allowing a predefined label to govern and restrict the natural evolution of the intimacy. The genesis of change, addressing digital fatigue and cognitive burnout. Prominent sociologists and relationship theorists suggest that the wildflowering movement is not merely a trend, but a biological and psychological immune response to years of pervasive dating app exhaustion. For the better part of a decade, we have approached courtship as a hyper-efficient marketplace, observed by a noted behavioral sociologist. The digital commodification of partners has led to a state of profound collective exhaustion. Wildflowering represents a reclamation of the human element. It acknowledges a fundamental biological truth. Attraction is not a linear algorithm, but a complex, non-deterministic process that requires both oxygen and time to achieve stability. For many contemporary daters, the traditional three-date rule, a social construct demanding a verdict on exclusivity or physical compatibility within a narrow window, has become a significant catalyst for performance anxiety. Wildflowering mitigates this by removing the metaphorical ticking clock, fostering an environment where intimacy can be cultivated at a pace that feels psychologically secure rather than performatively mandated. Comparative dynamics. Traditional courtship versus the wildflowering ethos. The transition from the curated rituals of the mid-2020s to the organic ethos of 2026 is most visible in the shift of social environments and interpersonal presentation. The landscape of romance is shifting from the curated rituals of traditional dating, 2024-25, toward the more organic ethos of wildflowering, spring 2026. Where traditional dating centers on structured 8 p.m. cocktail reservations and the pressure to assess long-term compatibility before the check arrives, wildflowering opts for low-stakes, daylight encounters, like 2 p.m. botanical garden strolls or spontaneous bookstore visits. The focus has moved away from the high-performance best-self presentation of the past, where every text follow-up was a calculated strategic move, to a high-authenticity, come-as-you-are energy. In this new era, the goal isn't to interview a partner, but to simply enjoy the conversation and the environment, with follow-ups occurring only when there is something genuine and heartfelt to share. Longitudinal viability, a sustainable shift, or transitory fad. Skeptics of the movement argue that wildflowering serves as an elaborate linguistic rebrand for commitment phobia. However, proponents maintain that by eliminating the element of coercion, the resulting foundations are significantly more robust. As the spring blossoms reach their peak, the cultural consensus among Gen Z appears to be crystallizing. The most valuable currency one can bring to a romantic encounter in 2026 is no longer a detailed 5-year plan or a checklist of requirements, but rather the psychological capacity for sustained presence. By allowing the roots of a connection to establish themselves in the absence of external pressure, the modern dater is finding that the eventual bloom is not only more beautiful, but inherently more resilient. As we conclude our examination of the wildflowering paradigm, it is evident that Generation Z is not merely altering dating habits, they are fundamentally restructuring the architecture of human intimacy. By rejecting the transactional efficiency of the swipe and discard era, this cohort is advocating for a deliberate, organic approach to relational development. This shift away from curated digital storefronts toward third spaces and community-centric intersections serves as a critical corrective to the social isolation characteristic of the early 20s. Strategic insights, the wildflowering methodology, friendship-first foundations, transitioning from dating to knowing to date, mitigates the performance anxiety and artificiality inherent in traditional courtship. The deconstruction of the talking stage. By integrating prospective partners into existing social ecosystems, individuals bypass clinical interrogation in favor of shared, authentic experiences. Contextual compatibility. This philosophy prioritizes real-world behavior, observing how a person interacts with their environment and community over the static presentation of a digital profile. The wildflower philosophy relationship growth is viewed not as a managed project, but as a natural process, requiring the appropriate environment, patience, and the absence of a rigid, predetermined blueprint. For those experiencing platform fatigue or the disillusionment associated with the gamification of romance, the objective is clear. Abandon the script. Prioritize community engagement over digital curation. By participating in localized interests, be it artisanal classes or athletic clubs, you position yourself to be grown within a social context rather than merely chosen from a gallery. You have been listening to 21st Century Dating Decoded, the official podcast of Speed Mingle. Join us in our subsequent session as we analyze digital ghosting versus conscious uncoupling, the ethics of the fade. Until then, maintain your authenticity and allow your connections to develop organically. Speed Mingle is strategically positioned to facilitate this new era of intentionality. Our platform offers a diversified suite of tools designed to minimize interpersonal risk and maximize the potential for substantive connection. Speed Mingle offers a diverse range of connection modalities tailored to different comfort levels and social preferences. Currently available, Speed Mingle Anywhere provides a secure way to engage in authentic, face-to-face video interactions from the privacy of your own home. For those seeking a more curated experience, Speed Mingle Happenings is also active, featuring meticulously planned, activity-based events designed to facilitate natural engagement through shared interests. The platform is rapidly expanding its physical footprint and personalized services as well. Launching this week, Speed Mingle Social introduces unhosted weekly gatherings at premier local venues, perfect for spontaneous, real-world connections. Looking ahead to spring 2026, the rollout of Speed Mingle 1-to-1 will introduce highly personalized, low-pressure meetings guided by pre-vetted compatibility metrics to ensure meaningful introductions. Our commitment is to provide various asset classes for connection, ensuring users do not over-concentrate their emotional investment in a single strategy. A successful relational portfolio is invariably predicated upon intentionality. Formalize your participation. To ensure you receive future insights and strategic updates, please engage with our official channels. Subscribe. Access our full catalog at 21st Century Dating Decoded podcast audio platforms, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Speed Mingle TV Network. View our content on YouTube, Roku, Fire TV, and the HRB TV network. If this discourse on modern dating narratives has been of value, we invite you to subscribe, provide a 5-star review, and share these insights with your professional and social circles. Furthermore, we encourage you to secure a reservation at an upcoming local event to diversify your social portfolio. Thank you for your continued listenership. Remain deliberate, remain secure, and proceed with defined purpose.
Thank you for listening and watching on the new
Speed Mingle TV network.